an extra thing to do in case they're not able to get a white collar job. So it still does not make tertiary education a scam. For people who say that, I think they don't know what they are saying. The reality is that the government needs to do more to create employment and ensure graduates are gainfully employed. But I think we need to also tell our parents and also tell students the era of waiting for government to provide jobs may have gone. Not even with a lot of the things the government have on hand to fix. So I think students and parents are already learning the fact that you don't just have to expect that your child will go to school for 4 years and come out and there's a job waiting for them. You have to prepare for them to also become entrepreneurs or take care of themselves by also doing some vocational jobs.
But what about, some suggestions that have also looked at advising the federal government to redesign the school curriculum to accommodate creativity and innovation? Just as you have abroad where you have science fairs, you have trade fairs in schools, children come out to, display the creativity in them rather than the old-based theory form of education.
You know what, Sandra? Incidentally, in every tertiary institution, there's entrepreneurship and tradecraft development part of the curriculum. It's not as if these things are new or we don't have a template for them. For example, there's no way, I don't know of private university, but there's no way you go to a public tertiary institution in Nigeria that there's no, I think it's even part of the courses you would have to do. Whether you learn shoemaking, you learn baking, it's part of the courses, it's part of the curriculum.
Vocational skills.
Yeah, vocational skills and entrepreneurship development. But when you go to those entrepreneurship centers, there's nothing there practically. These things are not well funded. There are no equipment to really train the students on vocation, on any vocation, or trade craft. So it's part of the curriculum already. It's just that we have to make it work. That's it. It's not as if it's not available. It's part of the curriculum. It's part of the courses we have to take as a tertiary, as a university student or polytechnic student.
Well, some educator is noting here that to nip this attitude in the bud, stakeholders in the sector must begin to educate young people on the numerous benefits education adds to their lives, aside from making money. He said, with education, there are limitless opportunities and possibilities for those that decide to pursue knowledge. All right, I think that just happily wraps it up. People just look at going to school to make money.
You know what, Sandra? If you're a carpenter and you're educated, it will be different. You're going to do it differently.
No,
if you're a shoemaker,
you'll be a furniture maker, you'll be a carpenter. If you're educated,
whether it is about, but in the way you present your business, in the way you package your business, in the branding of your business, people will know that this is an educated person. It will be different, definitely. And even if you're a shoemaker, a cobbler, okay, say it's a cobbler, it's not shoemaking.
Yes.
Okay, but whatever you call it. Well, as an educated person, the reality is that it will be definitely
No,
different.
I'm just saying, like, an educated person will tell you, I'm not a carpenter, I'm a furniture maker.
Because you understand yes. Branding and packaging. You understand? That's it.
Well, more details of that on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have here on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, made in Nigeria phones. Another good idea, awful execution. Do you agree?
Of course, completely. Remember when we floated the idea, we are going to be, making phones in Nigeria. Where is it now? How far have we gone with that?
What is
good
our
idea,
problem with
implementation?
What is our problem with implementation? What do you think the issue is with Nigeria?
It's always vested interest. It's always corruption and vested interest. I told you now. We've answered this. You've asked me this question 100 times, Sandra.
I'm hoping that maybe
something else.
I don't know. For a country like Nigeria, let me read the report.
Sorry, wait a minute. You remember there was time we were to do cassava bread. We had the president who even launched it, who showed us a sample of a cassava. Where are the cassava breads now?
Well,
just have your.
The report is saying for a country like Nigeria with a huge potentials and enterprising people in haste of real development, it remains pathetic that despite higher ranking among countries in the world with huge mobile connections today, manufacturing of mobile phones in Nigeria has remained a mirage, as over 99% of mobile devices in the country come from abroad. No thanks to policy flip-flop and insincere loyalty of public officers. The This is Guardian. I love
He just
reading that.
answered your question.
That's all I was saying. It says here that the missing sense of patriotism and nationhood is never far-fetched across the board, and it looms large in the irony of noble policies of the government that are controverted by actions of public office holders, including policymakers. The sabotage, deliberate or otherwise, explains the steady influx of foreign-made phones in the country. It's all right. So help us all. Let us not forget that the former Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Pantami, in 2021 announced with relish that the federal government had achieved 100% in the production of subscriber identification module, that's SIM cards, as well as the manufacture of many components of cell phones used in the country. He added that the local production was sequel to a national policy. But then, as it is now, are we having that or are we not having that? That's a big question. But more details on page 12 of the Guardian newspaper. Now we also have here, UK police arraigned Diezani on August 2nd for bribery, recover $53 million assets. And that is on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Are we ever going to hear the last of
that just started.
Mrs. Diezani Alison Adoike?
Something that is just starting, the last year. Well, eventually the UK police have decided to charge her with bribery. And I think the charge sheet is well detailed. It details of what she's being charged for. Unfortunately, I think one of the papers have it that the EFCC has not said anything. This report came out. She's been, she was arrested, I think sometime in 2002, last year, and she was granted bail. But now she has been charged fully, and she'll be appearing before a UK court. And the details.
Yes, I'm with you, Fuhad.
Sorry?
I'm with you, please.
Yeah, so she has now been charged for bribery. They listed a lot of things, talking about jewelry, talking about some of her luxurious lifestyle. The life of luxury. The fact that she owns properties abroad and all of that. For us in Nigeria, it may not be a problem, Sandra. For us in Nigeria, some of the things that the UK prosecutors are bringing up against her. In Nigeria, Sandra, you have civil servants, public servants who live this life and nobody questions them. They live beyond their means, beyond their salaries, and it's just normal for us. But for the UK prosecutors, they are seeing something different. They see a public servant who is living beyond their means, who they think has put her hands in all manner of corrupt practices, and they are trying to hold that to account. So we'll see how that goes when the case starts properly. But eventually, she has now been charged. But there's nothing coming from the Nigerian side. Yes, she is not saying anything. We don't know whether there's a synergy between the UK officials and that of Nigeria. Nothing has been said yet. But this is the UK government doing their thing.
All right, thank you very much, Fuhad. The report is saying that Andy Kelly, who is the head of the NCA's International Corruption Unit, said that bribery is a pervasive form of corruption which enables serious criminality and can have devastating consequences for developing countries. We will continue to work with partners here and overseas to tackle the threat. More details on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have here excess crude account down to $474,000 as federal government and others share 966 billion naira in July. Well,
excess crude account is long time coming. I was even shocked that it's not up to $500 million.
Fuhad, can you move a bit?
Yes, can you hear me now?
The quality of the call has dropped.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's much better. Thank you. So,
like I said, I'm shocked that we are even less than $500 million at the excess crude account. Maybe it's going to come up now, but again, it's still dependent on our crude production. If we're able to meet our quota, fight crude oil theft, and again, also monitor our expenditure. We keep putting our hands into that excess crude account for all manner of things. So, but it is what it is. Less than $500 million. That's terrible.
Well, of the earned, apparently Nigeria earned 1.74 trillion naira in July. and 966 billion naira was shared to the 3 tiers of government as allocation for July 2023. So from the stated amount, inclusive of gross statutory revenue, value added tax, electronic money transfer levy, and exchange difference, the federal government received 374, states received 310 billion, local councils took 229, and oil producing states got 51.545 billion naira as derivation. That's 13% of mineral revenue. Yes. So they are still getting this money of what?
I'm not excited. I think to a great extent, there's now enough money, or at least the revenue to share for governments at different levels has gone up substantially. These figures are looking very good for the government, if you understand what I'm saying. They now have enough money to share among themselves. But I'm not excited, Sandra. I'm not excited because you can't have this level of corruption in the country and get excited about the fact that governments at all levels now have enough money to share amongst themselves. So what happens eventually after sharing the money? Can we trust the government at all levels to do the needful, fix infrastructure, better the lives of their people, put the money and appropriate them appropriately? Are we going to get that? That's a big question. I keep saying that the policy outlook of this government is such that, look, they want to ensure that there's enough money available for the government. But the question is, can we trust them to deliver when the monies are now available to them? And that's what we're saying. So wait to see whether after share, because I think back to back now we have a situation where there's not enough money to share among the 3 tiers of government. But would it transform the lives of the people? Would it better the lives of the people? That's a big question.
Thank you very much, Fuhad. The time right now is 8 a.m. and we are looking through trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. This is Mainland 98.3 FM. We're moving on now to the Punch newspaper. And the major headline on the front page of the Punch says, anger as states warehouse rise, delay palliatives sharing. And we have riders here. Yeah, we have riders here. Borno distribute rice to 400,000 households. Workers lament hunger, demand relief. Labour insists 5 billion naira not enough. Gombe promises 10,000 naira. Anambra 12,000 naira. And we have pictures here. So for what? The sharing of the rice has begun, or not begun in some states, as clearly reported here. But then, Nigerians are expressing anger over the delay in the distribution of palliatives by state governors. For what? We saw a video yesterday. Is it in Kwara State or Ekiti now?
That was Kwara, where the man brought out the rice that
for a whole community.
It's been trending. It really trended over the weekend.
It's less than a quarter bag.
And that's what got to them now. Is that not what
community? Even the community people were laughing.
Before God.
Now what is this?
You know, like what we say in the street, when matter pass cry, and I laugh, you go laugh. When you see something, instead of you to cry, you just start laughing.
Yeah, but Fuad, is it? Can we look at it? Can we look at it from the point of view of, well, let's start with that, and we can progress onto bigger things, or
progress into what? Into bigger confusion, and pain and poverty.
Or the one that happened at Shomolu.
Look at the Shomolu one. The local government chairman. Look at the complete confusion that you had in Shomolu there. And in Lagos, I don't think we started anything in Lagos anyway. People have been asking me questions. Have Lagos started distributing its own palliatives? No, nothing for now that we know of. And because at least that's the easiest one that we can track. It's our constituency here. So wait to see how the governor will distribute his own palliatives, how the rice will be shared, and all of that, and the beans too. People have been talking about rice. Nobody seems to be interested in beans. These are people who don't eat beans. Sandra.
You're the only one that is saying this beans. So it's maize they are sharing. It's corn, it's agbado they are sharing.
No. It was the money was supposed to be for 100,000 bags of rice.
I've not seen beans.
I've not seen beans.
No, because rice. There's no beans there. I've read it to you. Let me read it again.
Okay.
What was disclosed from the NEC meeting that was chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima was that 5 billion naira was to enable state governments to procure 100,000 bags of rice, 40,000 bags of maize.
It was beans that we read before, so it has changed to maize.
It has always been maize. It's corn. It's agbado.
Not beans.
It's not beans. Why are you changing it to beans? You want people to eat rice and beans?
Why not? It's a good one now. If that's, I don't know. I thought so. So what happens with the maize? I thought it was beans, Sandra. Okay, we'll have to check the report again because all I heard, even from the press conference, was 40,000 bags of beans. But if I say to maize, but whether it is rice, beans, or maize, the reality is that these things will not solve any problem. Good luck to whoever is able to get whatever they get. If you're able to get a quarter bag, a Congo of rice or beans, these things will not solve any problem. What we are going to see is that, again, the governors now have money to share amongst themselves. We spoke with several politicians, and what they told us that, look, this is just money for the boys. Most likely party members will get out of the rice and maize or beans or whatever is being shared. You gonna have different templates in different states. I'm not surprised that Borno State has gone ahead to share 400,000 households. Borno has always had serious issues with IDP camps. So they have the template to share things. That's always been a problem. They've always been sharing things to their people. So I think it may be easy for Borno to do this. But for states who don't have the structure to share, they now have to think about how to properly share these things and all of that. But like I said the last time when we're talking about palliative, if you look at the definition of what palliative is, you know that this is what you get. It doesn't solve any problem. It probably will make people more impoverished. And I said it to you, Sandra, I think the last time we were saying this thing, that look, if you have gotten to the level where you have to wait for government to give you rice to feed your family, I am sure that when you get the rice, you may not have the money to buy kerosene and gas to cook. And that I'm sure of. If it has gotten to that point where you have to wait for the government to give you rice or beans or maize to feed your family, if you get that rice, there's a likelihood that you may not have the money to buy kerosene or gas, or even buy pepper to cook that rice. So it doesn't solve any problem. This is just the governors again twisting the government, making monies available for themselves. At the end of the day, half of that money will end up in private pockets of our politicians.
Well, the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics and the Nigeria Union of Teachers noted that only the implementation of a wage award will be sustainable for the Nigerian workers and not distribution of grains. The national president of ASUP, Anderson Ezebe, argued that distribution of palliative through state governors would not be effective as it may be influenced by political considerations.
That's it.
Moreover, he said it was not sustainable, as a means of lifting the people out of extreme poverty induced by the bad economic situation in the country. Fuad, so is it that, we should not collect the rice, or the rice is not going to do anything, it's going nowhere? I mean, there are some people that rice, even if you just boil it and eat it bare with no pepper or anything.
No, for people who did several bad policies of government, have put them in that situation. If they are lucky to get there, they should collect it. Listen to me. If for people who have gotten to that point, to that level of poverty as a result of continuous bad policies of government, if indeed the politicians feel that there are Nigerians at that level, yes, if those Nigerians are lucky to get part of the rice and palliative, why not? They should get it and find a way to cook it. Whether it's going to take them for a day or two or a week, at least it solves the problem at that level. But it's not going to help anything, Sandra. It's not going to change anything. You understand what I'm saying?
Do you think the NLC... Okay.
Yes, I'm with you, please. I'm with you.
Okay, I wanted to ask, do you think the NLC should be involved in the distribution or implementation
Sandra, I've always been against the idea of sharing things. Rice, beans, all these kind of things. There are things that can effectively tackle the level of poverty in the country. The first thing is to look at public transportation. But these are the things we were saying before the removal of subsidy. That before the government removes subsidy, can we address all of these issues? And what are the issues? We know that removing subsidy we're going to bring some impact and pain on Nigerians. So it would have been nice for us to have sorted out, okay, when these pains come, these are the things we are going to do. You understand? To reduce the suffering that will come as a result of the removal of subsidy. Debate it, look at the implementation and how it can be properly done. But here we have put the cart before the horse now, and the confusion is here. I know that this idea of sharing rice and beans is a complete waste of time. It will not solve any problem. But like I said, for Nigerians who have gotten to that point, who need this rice and beans, good luck to them if they are able to get it. But look, the easiest thing, Sandra, that would have helped the people would have been public transportation. But unfortunately, Ironically, like I said the last time when we discussed this, Lagos is the only state that seems to have, it's not even a structured public transportation system that has a semblance of a structured transportation system. The BRTs in Lagos, how many areas do they cover? How many Lagosians do they even carry in a day? Because it would be nice to say, okay, for BRT, like the governor has said, reduce it by 50%. But how many Lagosians use the BRT buses to commute to their different places of work? In states like Ogun State, how do you subsidize public transportation in Ogun State, Sandra? Let's say you want to do that in Ogun State. How do you do it? Are you going to use the small bus cars?
But
Your state, how do you yeah.
We need to wrap up on this story now, move on to, but I just have one last question to ask as regards this, because I have here Secretary General of the NUC, Mike Ennis, saying that the government will have good intentions, but some people will hijack the whole process. Do you think it's an implementation problem, or the policy in itself is just not?
The policy in itself is not right. The idea of sharing rice and beans, for me, is not right. So it's a bad policy that will still be hijacked by desperate politicians. Ab initio is a very bad policy. But the same bad policy at implementation level will still be hijacked. Because it is bad, it is the reason why it will be easy to be hijacked in the first place. So all in all is bad for me.
Well, more details on pages 2 and 27 of the Punch newspaper. There's anger as states are warehousing the rice, and there's delay in palliatives sharing. As it is now, people are lamenting that they've not, gotten what they need to get. But then we have Borno.
Go and take care of themselves. If they are listening to me, they should just take care of themselves. Find a way to take care of yourself. I've always said that.
It's okay.
And I'll continue to say, just take care of yourself.
It's okay.
You wait for the government, you are deceiving yourself.
It's okay. Thank you. Still on the front page of the Punch newspaper, I have here Naira slump. Manufacturers' raw materials imports hit 8 trillion naira. And that is on page 17. Manufacturers have spent at least 7.9 trillion naira to import raw materials in the past 3 years. According to manufacturers, the high raw material imports bill is due to operators' decision to source foreign exchange from the parallel market at high rates.
It's as simple as ABC now, Sandra. Manufacturers have been talking. They've been saying that, look, the floating of the naira would have dark consequences, because the reality is that a lot of our manufacturers still source their raw materials from abroad. And so if they have to source dollars at the parallel market, it means they are going to be spending more. I think one of our callers, Don Peters, keeps talking about the dollars. That, look, in the past, this was what $10,000 was always given to him in naira, but now it has depleted it completely because of this issue of forex. So for manufacturers, if you were running your business with 1 billion naira before, most likely now, because of the forex issue, it has been depleted completely, and so you have to source for raw materials. The problem with manufacturing is that it's not just about raw materials now in the country, Sandra. There's also serious overhead with energy. They have to power their factories, power their machines and plants, and high cost of diesel is not also helping them. There's also the issue of infrastructure, the roads to even move things around. It becomes extremely difficult for them to move their goods around. What it now means is that at the end of the day, whatever product they produce becomes too expensive for the ordinary people to buy. So you have manufacturers saying that even their produce, some of their goods, remain on the shelf for too long because nobody's buying them. You understand what I'm saying? Because when it becomes too expensive, people just look for alternatives. For example, look at people that do the baby foods and all of that. I think a lot of Nigerians have resorted to doing their food locally. Papa and all manner of things. They put crayfish in it and feed their baby. Because they can't afford all of this, baby food over the shelf. They are too expensive. So the reality again is that if the manufacturing sector is complaining, what will be the end result? It now means that people will lose their jobs, unemployment will go up, factories will fold up. So again, that was why we said when policies have to be implemented, let us have proper consultations, talk to stakeholders, let's look at the overall effect of policies before we jump into it. So again, the manufacturers are saying they've been saying it from day one, so they floated the naira against the dollar, and that's what we're seeing.
Thank you very much, Fuhad. But then, do you think, or would you also prescribe that the government should look at making available a definite rate for calculating import duty maybe that maybe as a means of separating.
Pushing the effect, yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. For the production of inputs of such as raw materials, bringing them in and all of that. Do you think in one way or the other it also helps these manufacturers?
I think we can begin to look at that, looking at waiving some import duties, maybe reducing it substantially for importation of raw materials to help the manufacturing sector. And I also think this is the time for the government to look at bailing out some of these manufacturing companies. This is the time to look at interventions to help them at this time. So if it's about import duties, helping with that, maybe some tax waivers too. But there's a problem now. This is a government that is on a very, very tough revenue drive. And at the same time, if you are telling a government that's looking for money anywhere and everywhere to now waive taxes and reduce import duties for manufacturers, you can see like it's almost working across purposes. You understand what I'm saying? On one breath, the government is looking for money everywhere. They need money. On the other, you are telling them that, save the manufacturing sector, give them tax waivers, reduce import duties and all of that. Because these are areas where the government is also making money from. So it's I think the government has to find a balance anyway to save the manufacturing sector.
Fuhad, but I know we've had this conversation before as regards, making money, or even as regards, making forex available. Don't we have anything worthy of export? Don't we have things aside from oil? Don't we have any other thing that is, that we can actually produce and also export as raw materials to other countries?
Sandra, the solid minerals in this country, we have not even taken advantage of 10% of what God has given to us in terms of solid minerals. That's there for us to tap into. It's there. God has given us all of that. I think even in bitumen, gold, everything. It's here in Nigeria for us to take advantage of. What of the agricultural sector, Sandra? If we're even talking about the fact that can we not produce enough in the agricultural sector, diversify economy, invest in agriculture, and begin to export agricultural produce? It's not even shameful that we are still importing grain, Sandra, agbado. Malaysia, Sandra, in the 70s came here to take a sample of our palm kernel. Some years after, Nigerians were now importing palm oil from Malaysia. Isn't that a shame? I remember, Sandra, during the Awolowo era, where we are passing regional government, each region had its own policy on agriculture. What was the West surviving on? The West was surviving on cocoa and farm produce. The cocoa house in Ibadan, the Wema board, the universities that were built during the Western region was built from agriculture. Right. It was not oil. So where are those things now? All of the farm settlements have been taken over. People have encroached on them. They are now building houses there. There was a time I did a drive, Sandra, from somewhere in Adodo through Aton and some other of these areas in Ogun State. And you could see what the Western region did, all abandoned. All of those palm trees are still there. Palm kernel trees are still there, but all abandoned. Nobody is tending to them again. Where are the cocoa plantations of the old Western region? The granite pyramid in the north. What of the palm oil, the palm kernels in the east? We all abandoned it for oil, and we are lamenting. It's a blessed nation, Sandra. Leadership is the problem. Nobody to drive real development.
All right. Thank you very much, Fuhad. This is still Mila 98.3 FM, and you're listening to Trends in the Papers. Finally, from the Punch newspaper, we're taking the story off page 27 that says, Ogun doctors plan September 1 strike over unpaid allowance. So
he's still not paying doctors. He's not building roads. He's not doing anything in that state as a governor. He's still not paying doctors.
Mashu. Well, following an alleged failure by the government to pay hazard allowance, 450 doctors in the state-owned health facilities across Ogun State are planning an indefinite strike and suspension of services beginning September 1. That's next week. And it was gathered that the doctors comprise mainly of those working at the Olabisi Onabanjo Teaching University Teaching Hospital and different general hospitals, primary health centers across the state, as well as those that are working with the Ministry of Health and Health Management Board. So
I don't know, Ogun State, God help that state. So I don't know whether to say they have been so unlucky to have very terrible governors. Despite all the potentials being the next state to Lagos. It's called there's a reason why it's called the gateway state.
Yes.
Because there's no way you get into Lagos without passing through Ogun State. There's no way you do it. And one would think that as a gateway state to Lagos, you know, they're supposed to tap from the prosperity of Lagos into the business opportunities from Lagos. But, you know, like I always tell people, one of the things you know you have moved from Lagos to Ogun State is bad roads. So you have governors who are not able to build roads, they are not able to open the economy of Ogun State up, you know, for investment. And the simple things like also running the health sector properly by paying doctors what they deserve, they still cannot do. So you ask yourself, what exactly are these governors doing, especially in Ogun State? What exactly are they doing? You just have governors in Ogun State faffing around, you know, half of the time you just see them gallivanting up and down. The reality is that the state is not functioning. Nothing is happening in that state, really, in terms of governance. And I'm sorry, that's just the reality of Ogun State. Go to most parts of Ogun State, the roads are bad. The inner roads are abandoned. There's nothing practically happening in that state, despite the potential. And now we can't pay doctors what they deserve. Sandra.
Well, I cover my eyes in shame. That is my beloved state. It's very unfortunate, but that's the truth. All right, you know, despite even having a former president coming from that state, it's just very unfortunate.
The former president didn't even do anything there when he was president.
Well,
he wrote to his farm and his house. He didn't do anything about it.
It's okay. We are the bereaved. It's okay, Fuhad. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Fuhad. But that's just no. But Fuhad, I mean, there was a gate. The governor built it.
And that's the only thing. You is gateway state, so you have to have a beautiful gate.
Yes. So we have a beautiful gate. Though.
It's not enough.
No, please don't talk to us anymore.
It's at the interchange there, a very massive, beautiful gate there.
That the
you go through a beautiful gate into a very
terrible
terrible road.
It was the president that commissioned it too.
You know this shameful act of Ogun State has been there for some time. I remember, I think during Benga Daniel, with the former speaker Bankole, when after so many years of people suffering in Songo, they eventually built a 1 kilometer bridge in that place, and they were fighting on who to commission it. I remember that issue. And they built the bridge in Songo there. All the adjoining roads, they didn't touch it. And to commission bridge of about 1 or 2 kilometers, they were fighting over who was to commission it. Very shameful at that time. So you can see that it's been a long time coming. It's not today.
It's okay, Fuhad. Please. It's okay.
I just wanted to remind you that will be today.
Moving on to the Punch newspaper, we have the major headline there. New twist in Niger crisis as Russian mercenaries arrive. Wagner Group in Mali with arms and ammunition.
Prigozhin in Africa, Sandra.
Prigozhin.
Yeah, well, you saw his video. So I think, in the desert there, with rifle, Kenya has come to Africa to liberate us. Wonderful.
Yes. Wow, that's interesting. Well, the detail is more details of that on page 2, but we'll look deeper into that on Global View by 9:45. Yes. Moving on now, still on the front page of The Nation, ministers zoom into action. Wow, this is amazing. We have here, Badaru demands action plan to end terrorism. Wike to directors, move on if you can't perform. Tunji Ojo, porous borders, passport scarcity must end. Umahi inspects Abuja Lokoja Road. Our ministers have hit the ground running for it.
They should start running in the right direction. It's not a problem. We've seen people hit the ground running and running in the wrong direction. But I like the spirit. I think we must commend the fact that a lot of them are so eager to get on their job and start working immediately. I think we need to commend that. So it's not the usual thing. Oh, you have not been appointed minister. They are still throwing parties. Our families and friends are still holding,
Okay.
So because what we saw of these ministers, I think we need to commend their attitude to work. Is that, look, all of them were so eager to get on their job and start meeting with their directors, permanent secretaries, staff of the different ministries. I think it's nice to see that. But I think it's beyond all of this initial positive outlook towards their job. It has to be sustained. And most importantly, we want to see them getting more loyal to the nation, doing the things that will benefit the people than their personal interest or their principles. So it's early days, but I think we have to commend the fact that they got onto their job immediately. But we have to just wait, to assess them properly. Give them some time before we begin to assess.
Well, there are a lot of interesting statements here that I would have loved to take, especially from the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. Very interesting, reports here. But then we also have reports from the Works Minister as well, Dave Umahi. who has, visited some ongoing project sites.
Project there.
Yes, as a takeoff point. We also have here the Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, also met with service chiefs, directed them to set a timeline and highlight the requirements for ending terrorism. All right, we also have here the Minister of Science, Innovation and Technology, Uche Naji, said approval of funds will require clearance from his office. He also said decisions must align with the administration's goals of optimizing resources for projects to deliver tangible outcomes. That's as for that. Okay, that's from his desk. All right, we also have. Well, there's a lot of statements here from Yeson Wiki. It's an interesting one. Wiki is
He's a showman. He took the shine of everybody.
it is very interesting. He said a whole
But
lot.
he needs to calm down. He needs to calm down.
He's excited. You just praise them for their, ginger. What exactly do you want
No.
from
The
him?
like I said, when I say ginger, the fact that they all resumed almost immediately and are already meeting. Look, Dave Umai was already inspecting projects.
Okay.
That's good to see. That's what I'm saying. But
All right.
like I said, you hit the ground running, but please run in the right direction. That's
Well, on transportation, Wike said, Wahala don't come, decrying the indiscriminate and illegal bus stops in Abuja. He said a whole lot, has also said something about street trading. He said something about sanitation. He said something to the directors as well, and illegal structures, shanties, and other illegalities. And he said after the short-term quick fixes, he would embark on development projects. And he said there will be no abandoned projects in my time. Yes, Fuhad.
Hello, Sandra. We all agree. If you visited Abuja, you understand that a lot of things have gone wrong. Probably in the last 10, 15 years, the master plan has been distorted by all manner of illegalities, shanty towns, and all of that. So again, it would be nice to see an FCT minister who is ready to reinstall order, bring back order into Abuja. But in whatever Wiki is going to do, he must also understand that, look, it's about the people. His policies must have human face. So he's not just going to go there and begin to treat people as if, or treat people as if they don't matter. There's so much poverty in the land, and whatever he will be doing, he should understand that, look, it should still be about the benefits of the people. He should not run a bourgeoisie kind of government where it's just about the elitist class. It's just about them. It also has to be about the people, and must have a human face to whatever it's going to be doing.
All right. Thank you very much. Still on the front page of the Punch newspaper, government to curb rising inflation with cutting money supply. So, the federal government plans to cut the cash in circulation to rein in inflation. And that's coming from a hint by the Minister of Finance and also Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun. He said the measure became imperative to keep rising inflation at a desirable and stable level. They said there should be discipline in money supply to control inflation in the nation's economy.
You see, Sandra, I'm not. Who am I to question Mr. Wale Edun's intellect when it comes to financial matters or policy decisions? But we have said it severally. I think Mr. Wale Edun will know that look, singular policy of fiscal policies cannot solve our inflation issues in Nigeria. It will not even mitigate it. We've been increasing interest rates, haven't we been doing that to tackle inflation? Has it resolved it? The issue of inflation is clear. There are multidimensional issues that we need to address to tackle inflation. And until we do that, even if you bring the best economists in the world and they continue to tinker with monetary and fiscal policy, it will not solve our problem. And that's just the reality. So Mr. Wadedu can come with the idea of, okay, reducing money in circulation and all of that. Those are just mere monetary policies that will not really solve our problem. Until we do the real thing, inflation will not go down in this country.
Thank you very much, Fuhad. That's all we can take from the nation. Now we move on to New Telegraph. I have here that military action alone can't curb banditry and terrorism in the Northwest. Do you agree with that statement, Fuhad? Just very quickly.
Well, let us even start with the military action. I understand the idea of kinetic and non-kinetic means. But let's get our military action to a point where we can now begin to bring in non-kinetic measures. I agree that, of course, a lot of things have to happen too when it comes to the issue of terrorism and banditry. the governors in the north needs to wake up. There's too much poverty in that place. So you see young people who look at themselves, the future is not guaranteed, and they look on the other side. Let's go into the bush, join these criminals, and somehow I'm able to make money and live a better life. So again, what is fueling insecurity, I agree. I think Iowa Constitution has said it, their leaders have said it, that one of the issues in the north that is fueling this insecurity banditry is the poverty in the north. And who do you blame? You have to blame their leaders, who have kept their people perpetually poor by all manner of corrupt activities. What have they been doing with their allocation? There are so many local governments in the north, they get allocation, the state governors, what have they been doing to get their people out of poverty? So yes, military action on one side, but it's also about taking people out of poverty in the north. The rate of poverty in the north is crazy, and it will continue to fuel insecurity. And also education. They need to get people educated in the north.
Well, thank you very much, Fuhad. That's a wrap for Trends in the Papers for this morning. We'll take a short break now, and then we'll be back by 8:40, where we'll pick one or two major trending stories and then open up the phone line for you to be a part of the conversation, our dear listener. So please stay with us. Don't go anywhere. My name is Mobola Sandra. I have Fuhad Saheed with me via the phone line, and this is Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.